Hi everybody and welcome to Nitrotech. I'm Neil and today we're having a look at the superb 5th scale Yama Buggy. Now obviously I have it out on the table with all the stuff unpacked from the box, so let's take a look and see what we've got. As you all know, the Buggy comes completely built as a ready to run model. In fact, the only thing that you do have to do is take it out of the box and then assemble the rear wing, and obviously it's just in one piece here. There's some hardware that's included, so I'll pop that on, and with the wing on, our Buggy is now complete. So what else do we get in this great package? Included with the package is this great fuel mixing bottle. Now, fuel powered models need to be, the fuel needs to be blended with two-stroke oil. So what we've got here is a mixing bottle. So you put your unleaded fuel in, and then depending on what ratio of oil you need with the fuel, you then top the bottle up to the appropriate markings. It's really very simple. Shake it up and then you've got a perfectly blended fuel. So that's included with the model. Included is also this superb little toolkit comprising of a couple of Allen keys, a couple of screwdrivers, that's a double-ended screwdriver, a plug, wrench, a spanner, and this nice little carry case, so obviously you don't lose any of the bits and pieces. Now the user manual for this Buggy is really quite good. It comes filled with exploded diagrams of all the parts and the part numbers and what have you, which is really quite helpful. So if you do need to order some spare parts later on, it's a lot easier if you can do it with part numbers rather than trying to describe down the phone to somebody what it is that you're after. So you need to keep this nice and safe. And it is actually very useful in terms of getting started as well, and some things that you perhaps need to consider before you get running for the first time. So with this superb Buggy comes this great 2.4 GHz controller. The steer wheel itself has got some nice detailing touches. It's an alloy road wheel with a brake disc that's been drilled out inside, as you can see, and in effect the tyre, or what would be the tyre, is a nice rubbery compound, so that's quite comfortable to use, easy to grip. Being 2.4 GHz, of course, there are no crystals to change. It's very easy to use, and because of that the aerial itself is very short, and of course in this case it's foldable. Across the top of the controller we've got this secret little panel, I suppose, with the on-off switch and the various trim controls and reverse controls for the radio. All of these features are covered in the helpful instruction manual, which is included with the kit. So if you have any issues, it's very well explained and laid out in there too. Last but not least is this great charger. It's a mains charger for the receiver pack in the car itself. Now obviously there's a battery in the car which is rechargeable, and you literally plug it into this charger here, and in fact it's got a convenient charge plug on the side of the Buggy, so you don't even have to take the body shell off in order to charge the car up. So let's start looking at the Buggy itself. So starting at the back of the Buggy, well, let's talk about tyres. Well, the tyres are actually quite firm, and by that I'm talking about the insert. Basically, of course, these models don't have inner tubes like a bicycle or whatever. The actual inner tube, if you like, is a piece of foam rubber, and they're quite firm here, which really holds the tread quite flat, which is going to be great. You're going to have a great amount of contact patch with the ground for acceleration and of course braking effect, because being two-wheel drive, all the accelerating and braking is on the rear axle. Now by contrast, the front tyres are quite soft. Certainly to feel, made of probably a very similar compound rubber, but the insert inside is a bit softer, and that's for two reasons. Firstly, there's less weight over the front axle. Being rear wheel drive, they try and concentrate the weight of the vehicle towards the rear for accelerating and braking, but at the front axle you like to have this nice soft compound insert, and that just helps the front end to find and bite the grip to help steer the Buggy. Moving a little bit further around to the front, we've got this great front bumper bar. It's nice and lightweight, plastic and flexible, incorporating this skid plate design that you can see here, so that if it does encounter anything that's just a little bit higher than the chassis, that the car rides over the top. But it's particularly neat and finishes the front of the buggy off rather nicely. Now the front axle is, as you might expect for a model of this scale, to be made of quite chunky materials. Everything is nice and big. You even get the turnbuckle on the top wishbone, so you can adjust the camber of the front end, the front axles. The front axles themselves are mounted in rather large, nicely engineered ball bearings, so it's going to be nice and free running. And just everything from the wishbone to the hardware that's used, it just is chunky and up to the job of the pounding that you're going to no doubt throw this buggy's way. Now the front shock absorbers are really quite sizable. They comprise of 2 coiled springs, and then you have oil-filled piston here. You can adjust the ride height by adjusting the collar. There's the threaded shock body will allow you to do that, and of course you can refill the oil in the shocks with any thickness of viscosity of oil that you like to adapt the handling to your requirements. Now as we move towards the rear of the car, obviously we've got the great looking colour scheme of this one. It's a nice green body shell. In the centre here we've got the fuel tank, which is easily accessible without removing any components at all. Moving back from there, we've got the engine with the carburetor adjustments, which is easy to access. We've got a kill switch and the pull start, so everything that you're going to need to access to get up and running. You don't have to remove any panels or anything like that. It's really convenient. But one of the things that I do like is actually this the way that this roll cage is constructed. It really gives the buggy a nice profile and makes it reminiscent of those sort of sand dune races that you may have seen on TV, all the way back to the mounting of the rear wing that we touched on earlier. Now the thing about this rear wing is that it is adjustable. There are three separate settings, so as it comes in the box, that's the flattest, but if you do feel that you need a bit more downforce at the rear end, you've got the option of adjusting that. So looking a bit more closely at the rear end now, we've got the same great alloy shock bodies that we've got at the front. In this case, they're actually longer at the rear, and I also like the detail that they've included a rubber boot over the piston end of the shock, so where you don't get any grit or dirt affecting the way that the rear suspension operates. So again, you've got adjustable ride height collars, and then the suspension itself, you've got really chunky and thick lower meaty lower wishbones, and the upper wishbones here are adjustable for camber as well with these great turnbuckles. Looking again at a bit further down at the drive shaft now, that's probably a really thick drive shaft on great dog bones, and as we pop over the top and look down into the diff area, you've got a nice metal diff with these hardened metal gears as well, so really sturdy and strong stuff at the rear end. Now, still looking at the rear differential, as you can see there on the right, and then you've got this pinion gear which comes through this shaft and into the braking mechanism. Now the braking mechanism is really strong on this car. You need good brakes when you can do the speeds that this buggy can, and really here they've gone to town, because the disc itself comprises of, in fact, 3 discs. You've got 2 flat pieces which are separated from each other with a kind of star-shaped disc, and this really exposes the disc to the maximum surface area to be able to get rid of the heat that's surely going to be generated when you're really pressing on hard with this buggy. I also like the way that the bodywork really comes up and helps shield the braking mechanism from the debris that could be thrown up from the front wheels.
Moving forward from there, if we actually look at the front end of the engine, you can see we've got the HC lead and the spark plug goes in here, and it's really very easy to access. And that means that the exhaust is really low down onto the chassis, and you get a really nice, neat little flexible silicone exhaust pipe. Now that really deflects all of those exhaust gases really down into the ground, and I think that's a really neat way of doing it. You don't have any of these big convoluted things that you may have seen elsewhere. It's just a really nicely thought through bit of design. So moving forward now with the engine, I've taken the bodywork away so that you can see exactly what's underneath. We've got this nice roll cage continuing all the way down to the front, where it connects with body clips, and certainly the fuel tank now with these really quite neat grommets are going to prevent any fuel leakages or spillages. So that's really quite nicely finished off too. As we move forward, we've got the throttle and steering servo. We've got an enclosed case for the receiver battery, and we've got this large 5th scale servo for the steering, because obviously it's quite a heavy vehicle. You do need a strong servo to operate the steering, and of course finishing off with the receiver. So essentially everything from the fuel tank forward is where the electrics in the car are located. Further on, we've got the servo here, which is operates the steering as you'd expect, with a chunky sprung-loaded servo saver. So as the front suspension takes up the pounding that you're going to throw at it, if there are any peak loads that are going to knock the suspension on the front end, the steering on the front end, that you're not going to end up breaking the servo, because the steering is protected with that servo saver. And as you can see, while we're looking in this direction, this additional reinforcing plate on this already quite thick alloy chassis. So it really does have a really well engineered feel about it. And moving up from there, you can see that the front end is mounted on these really, I mean, they're huge thick alloy bulkheads. And when you consider there's no actual power transmission going through the front end, it's really heavily engineered. So even through to this alloy shock tower, it's certainly built to last.
So just as we wrap things up here for the Yama Buggy, and I think you'll have to agree it's a really fantastic overall package. I don't think anyone else even comes close in terms of price and quality than the Yama Buggy. But there's a couple of things that you might want to just consider adding to your order before you check out, and that's essentially the batteries for the radio transmitter. Now it takes AA batteries, and we do some very inexpensive rechargeable AA batteries and a charger, so check those out. There we are, very inexpensive to add on to this order. And also you need to remember that running a model of this scale and speed, it does take a responsible attitude, and I think really if you could add on a servo failsafe, that really is the way to go. I mean, this little device, very cheap, but essentially it will stop at any runaway of the car if you get to a situation where the receiver battery becomes discharged in the car. It's a bit like an insurance policy, so that the car will effectively shut down if the battery goes flat. So yeah, consider adding one of those. And to those of you who just want the icing on the cake as well, we do have a couple of upgrades available for this buggy now, because it comes very well featured already. These are limited to the alloy versions of the front upper and rear upper wishbones, so they're nice items to add on. So if you want to really make your buggy stand out and be that bit a cut above the rest, then those are things to consider. So that's it. It's the Yama Buggy. I think it's a great looking model. It won't disappoint in terms of its performance, and I'm sure you'll have a great time with it. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.